All right, and here we have him, Mr. Geoff Southby. How are you, mate?
Righto. Very well, thanks,
Jeff,
mate.
thanks for
Good on
joining
you,
us
Vince.
today.
Great to see you, mate.
It's great to see you. This is grand final week.
Oh,
Yes.
it is. How? There's a smell of the liniment in the air,
Mate,
isn't there? Fair dinkum.
you'd know exactly how this would smell, wouldn't you?
And the reason we've got you is because you're one of the great finals players of all time for Carlton.
Mate, I wish I played in a few more, but time got an injury got me a bit pushed me aside a little bit occasionally, but lucky enough to play in both the 1972 and 1979 premiership. So it was such a special time, and how lucky
big,
was
two big premierships.
Oh,
there
two
were.
big premierships,
Two of the biggest,
and
I reckon.
how lucky I was at Carlton to be able to be there during a very successful period, and missed 81 and 82 through injury, but still feel part of that. And last night we had a great get together with David Parkin and Mike Fitz and all the boys and the girls. We all came last night, and that was celebrating the 40th anniversary of the 81.
That's a good thing about winning premierships, it's the getting back together.
Oh, look, it's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, there's such a strong bond, and I think it's premierships really bring that out. But this is a special group to do the
There's not too many reunions of teams where they lost the grand final.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
you don't see too many teams from '86 or '93.
I've never seen too many of the Collingwood teams having these, big reunions of the '70s. The poor buggers, but anyway,
you had their measure in those '70s and early '80s.
We had their measure, and we even had Essendon's measure in the '70s.
Yeah.
Essendon started to haunt us a bit after that in the '80s and early '90s, but
well, maybe at the end of your career, when you sort of struck out from a luck point of view with injury, missing out on the '81 and '82 premierships, but you started off like a house on fire in your career, because your first 2 years, being 1971 and 1972, you won the best and fairest for Carlton. In your 2 years, the first 2 years.
How old?
I don't think anyone's ever done that.
I was 20 and 21, I think.
21.
Yeah. So.
Surely no one else.
No,
has
I
ever
don't
done
think
that.
so. I don't think so. Not at Carlton. I don't
think anywhere.
Somewhere else, but no, it was a special time. I was sort of. I was 20 when I arrived, so I'd played 2 seasons of senior footy in Bendigo, or one with the powerhouse in the amateurs.
Not at that level. So
nowhere near that level, but. In terms of body strength and things like that,
you'd had a
playing
couple of
against
years
men, I think it was a bit easier in those days to do it in person. But look, came to Carlton, loved the whole scene there, and there was some tremendous players and role models and mentors there. So
were you a bit lucky that you came into the team immediately, because of course, the former fullback had just retired, Wes Lofts.
Well, opportunity.
And you took his number as well.
Was the opportunity?
The opportunity was there, and took his number and his position because he retired. And so Wes Lofts, God bless his soul, is he was such a significant figure at Carlton, both on the field and off the field. And his contribution should never be forgotten, I think. Wesley.
Absolutely. And he, of course, went on to become a very staunch, what could we say, Carlton stalwart for many, many years.
Very much on the committee.
Chairman of selectors.
Chairman of selectors. He was a very incisive chairman of selectors. He was, his role was very good, because he had to come after another great chairman of selectors. That was Jack Rout, who was in the 70s, most of the 70s, and then Wes took over after that. But 71, 72, form was good, and lucky enough to win the best and fairest. But the real pleasure came with the 72, but when we won a premiership that year.
Of course,
and winning a best and fairest in a premiership year is something special.
That must have been an amazing game to be part of. 50 goals scored for the game. We scored 28, and 25 of them by three-quarter time.
Yeah, look, unbelievable.
Do you remember what that was like?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget it. I mean, it was just a special day.
It was going to be a shootout, wasn't it?
That was the plan.
Big John Nichols, he masterminded, along with the selectors, a number of positional changes, and Richmond had smashed us in a replay of a preliminary final, or a qualifying final in those days, and they went in as hot favourites, and with the positional changes and Big Nick going to the forward pocket, spending most of the day there, empowering Percy Jones to take the ruck, and he rucked magnificently all day.
Yeah.
And we had Wolsey playing one of his best ever games at centre half forward with
what did he kick, like
6 goals.
6 goals, yeah.
And Jezza was his usual brilliant best with 6 goals, and Big Nick himself kicked 6. So we had 18-6 at half time. I think every player was in the zone. We had Trevor Keogh giving Sheedy a bath on the half forward flank.
That's nice.
And you had Bruce Dool at centre half back, curbing the likes of Royce Hart, and of course I've lined up on Ricky McLean at the time, and I'm thinking I might not last the game. And
he's a former Carlton player, of course.
Yeah. As I said, I was shit scared of Ricky when he played at Carlton, let alone when he went to Richmond. And I thought, oh no, I'd have to take a change of jockstrap out with Anyway, lucky enough, he pulled a hamstring in the second quarter and went off.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I thought, oh, this takes a bit of pressure off me, but sure enough, next I'm playing on Neil Barnes. So I had a pretty tough day all the same.
You had some really interesting duels with Neil Barnes over the years, didn't you?
Yes, very much so.
He comes across as very meek and mild these days, doesn't he?
Well, he is.
He's outside the ground.
Is he a gentle soul deep down?
I think everyone says he was a definite white line fever man, and I would say that I've got no respect for what he did on the field, but I've got a hell of a lot of respect for what he's done off the field. He's been very good.
100%.
So one of those enigmas, that we come across every now and then, but not much fun when you get belted and put to sleep by him in a grand final in 1973.
73, though, he got you back, didn't he?
But...
No, I'll just say, like, starting, you came in as a 20-year-old, you said you played, was it Bendigo or?
Came from Bendigo, played with Sandhurst in the Bendigo league.
So that's a tough league, but then coming over to, because you won the best and fairest, like as a junior, I mean, you had people like Bruce Dool next to you, right?
Very much so. How lucky was I when you think
how much of a difference did you feel from one league to the next? Like, when you came in, did you go, wow, because you adapted pretty quick.
I did, but you do. It was just a whirlwind of sort of experience to come in and play in a team that won the premiership the year before, that magnificent 1970 premiership, and I just missed that by a few months, basically. Lobbed in early 71, and I think Bobby Edmonds, who was the weightlifter at the time, was playing at Carlton, and his body was unbelievable. And the first bloke I saw when I walked in the change room was this bloke just taking off his top to bloody put his footy gear on. Yeah. And he was looking like Adonis, I thought,
was you just like a skinny bloke?
I was like a skinny little rat coming in, and I thought, oh no, I can't handle this. You realise that a footy team, the team factor is so powerful, and you've got these great players like Kevin Hall and Ian Collins, and Serge Silvani was still playing in those days, and how lucky I was to be able to.
Vinny Wade.
Vinny Wade played alongside Vinny, and Jack O'Connell, great, and Dooley was coming into the game and all that sort of stuff. So, but as a youngster, the support I got from Carlton and particularly Barassi, who inspired me big time. Even in '71, when they said he didn't coach all that well. It
was the only year that you were coached by Barassi.
That's right.
Your very first one.
And I just loved every minute of him.
Was he as tough as he looked like? Like the yelling and that was that really?
He was a hard, autocratic leader, but a man of great principle, a man of great integrity at the same time, and you could tell all that. He could put on a brilliant show in terms of getting blokes to giving them a pay out of town. But that was the way in those days. I mean, these days you probably wouldn't get away with it. Some of the stuff that happened, but
everyone would go off.
But by the way, sorry for all the commotion that's going on around at the moment. There was a car alarm going off.
Car alarm.
Trucks driving.
The rain's falling.
We're here at Infinity Bar and Cafe and Lounge here in Essendon.
Yeah, lovely spot. I often had a coffee here.
You used to live around here, didn't you?
I used to live in Keilor, and
it's a beautiful village, North Essendon Village.
My daughters live around this area in Essendon. And my grandkids.
This is where I live too. So as well as a lot of Carlton people live around these parts.
They all come around here.
Yeah, well, you got, I think Sticks is down not far away.
Yes, Sticks is around the corner. Adrian Gleeson not far away. Greg Williams used to live down there.
Well, they all come over to Carlton with their $800,000 contracts this time now, and they all come down here and they buy a couple of houses.
Jeff was here in a probably modest weatherboard back in
my
the day.
first season. By the time they took tax out and finals tickets, I think I had to pay that.
Well, that's another thing. Yeah, it wasn't professional. You would have been working.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
I was studying when I first arrived, but then I became a teacher in the high school system from 1974. So I taught for most of my
Where was that?
career. That was at Flemington High School, which was so I had a good time.
So you would
7 years
teach
there.
full time.
Teach full time, go off to training.
So when was training?
Training was always 4:30. Tuesday, Thursday.
Play Saturday?
Then as time went on, they used to added another day, and in the late 70s. So it became pretty stressful to be doing both.
Oh yeah.
And
don't forget the pleasant Sunday morning.
Oh, the Sunday mornings, that was a recovery day.
Did you have a nice little game of soccer with Bruce Dool back in those days?
Yes. I played a lot of soccer, and we used to then go up to Nicky's nightclub, and then just
no, that was the night before.
Well, after the night before, but then we continue on.
The next day.
Open a couple of a bottle.
But apart from, like, I've spoken to a few players, and they've said it was a lot of fun that Sunday morning, but there was also a lot of truths being spoken.
Oh, yeah.
So that you really started league teams, didn't you? Like, they've got it now where
everyone's got to be honest with each other.
Yeah,
and all that sort
that's
of
right. Yeah,
you guys just did that.
Well,
automatically.
it did automatically because if you had to put in a bad one and your team played badly and you got smashed or whatever, your mates. There was a bit of soul searching going on, and you had to cop a bit and occasionally give it out a little bit, and so that. But it was all done within a pretty controlled way, because you had good leaders both on the field and off the field at that stage, and so it never got out of control.
And I think it's necessary if you want to be a successful side. The truth has to be spoken.
It's the review, isn't it?
It's the review, and by
the real review,
and by the players that you're running out with, what better review can you get than that?
That's right. The last thing you want to do is let your teammates down.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right. So, but very interesting time.
So, started off like a house on fire. 71, obviously, we didn't make the grand final that year, but you played very well, won the best and fairest. 72, fantastic grand final win. Basically out-strategised Richmond. You knew that you were never going to keep them under 100
points. And every
points,
player were just in the zone, really.
Yeah.
It was a special day for Carlton.
Then Carlton went through, obviously made the grand final in 73, pretty successful year, but unfortunately
we had a chance to win that. And
then what happened? Tell us a bit more about those middle 70s years. Because that 5-year period was a bit tumultuous, wasn't it?
Had a wonderful 2 or 3 years as the coach, and then he left and went off to South Australia, and then we had a new coaching panel that came in, and
Ian Thorogood.
Yeah, Thorogood came in, and Thorough was not
was he the one immediately after John Nichols?
I think it was, about 75, 76, at the start of 76, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah. And whilst we played good footy, but we just couldn't really get the team thing going, particularly in the finals.
Did you make finals?
We made finals in 1 year, I think, 76, but then we didn't in 77. And then Ian Stewart was appointed. So we had a bit of instability at the coaching ever, and Stewie came and
he lasted
about 6 weeks or
half a dozen games.
He was all over the place in a lot of ways, Stewie. A bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of person in a lot of ways, but a brilliant footballer and a brilliant football mind. Triple Brownlow medalist.
So coming along.
We played against him in 72. He was up in the forward line.
Do you think that in those days, if you were a star player, Brownlow medalist, all of that, you got a coaching job whether you're any good at it
but
or not?
He'd been coaching the Swans, or South Melbourne, and did a pretty good job with them. And of course, I think it was a logical appointment at the time because he was showing some real promise as a coach. Excuse me, Stewie, and I found him pretty reasonable, but a lot of people on the match committee, I think there was a lot of conflict going on there. And he had to go apparently, and
Did Jezza take over immediately?
No.
Serge Silvani
for a little while, and all that.
Eventually Jezza did. That was in 78.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
who else coached for a little while? But certainly, Sir.
Well, I'll tell you
Sir.
one person that was a casualty of all of that Ian Stewart scenario was Robert Walls.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that,
He
Robert
would have
Walls
been
may
one-
never have left Carlton.
Yeah, well, it's
But
interesting
then-
how his career would have panned out because
That's
he had
right.
a brilliant career, and
Yeah.
when he went to Fitzroy and played
Yeah.
and then coached Fitzroy, but Wolsey, a champion bloke, champion player, and his contribution to the game has been incredible.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic. We had an interview with him earlier this year.
Yeah,
Just a fantastic
oh
Carlton
yeah,
person.
and even as a writer too,
Writer.
football writer,
Media, yeah.
media guy.
And he's also like,
And he's also trying to help Essendon find a coach at the moment.
Yeah. and
Well, he can do a lot worse than getting Wolsey in.
Well, isn't that interesting?
And we got
Because
Simone McGuinness
Wolsey
too.
and
with the
Sheedy used to
netball.
have some real,
That's right.
you know,
I think that's one of
And
his most
Sheedy's on the board.
disliked sides.
And they've kissed and made up, I
Have
think,
they?
in the last
Yeah.
2 or 3
Must-
years, which
they
has
must
been
have, because
fantastic. But
Sheedy's on
there,
the
was
Essendon
there
board.
was some nasty tension between those two for
I
a
just-
while.
Quietly,
Yeah.
Wolsey's got a plan, mate. He's gonna bring Essendon down.
yeah, they're going to give it to James Hurd. You watch.
What, a bit like Mickey Malthouse at
Yeah,
Carlton,
that-
is right?
That's
Oh,
it.
no.
Yeah.
That was a dark.
That was a dark-
He might even
dark
recommend
chapter in the
Essendon.
Carlton
He might
story.
even recommend that Essendon gets Malthouse.
That's true. That's true. I'm loving it.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then, so you had that, and then
Yeah, that was an
Jezza.
interesting time. Now, Jezza took over, and we thought, how's this going to work? He's our mate, you know. And,
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
and you know, how can a bloke just change? But to give him great credit, Jezza did change, and he became quite autocratic in the way
Right.
he went about things, and he made us work our backsides off.
Yeah.
So
physically,
friendships aside,
friendships aside,
it's all business.
all business,
Yeah.
and we trained as hard as anyone would have trained in the history of the
Yeah.
game, I reckon,
Yeah.
for those 2 years.
That's what we believe.
And culminating in a magnificent victory in 1979 grand
Yeah,
final.
it's amazing how quickly he turned it around, isn't it?
Yeah, I can still feel myself running out onto the ground at the MCG, and we've had, I think, Up There Gazali
Yes, that's right.
that was
That
was
comes
released that
It had been going
that
for a
year.
couple of years by then, that song.
Yeah,
that's
and
right, yeah.
it was booming as I ran out, and I thought, how special is this? You know, Up There Gazali, I'm running out there.
Tell us, because we've asked other players,
Yeah.
what is that feeling like when you're
I know
running
you
out
can't really explain it. But
and 100,000
you're-
people are
you're
cheering
full
and
of nerves,
balloons
you're
and
full of-
massive banners?
You're full of nerves, you're full of excitement.
Yeah.
There's just that sort of unbelievable feeling.
Yeah.
And when you've got the atmosphere of people screaming and then music like Up There Gazali, it sort of just enhances the whole experience.
100%.
And it was just a magnificent. Well, you know, you just cherish those moments that you. And then you think, oh shit, got to play well today.
Yeah, well, the
And
pressure comes on.
the pressure comes on, and
So-
then you got to go to the.
Can I ask you
I got
another-
to
Did
go
you
up
play
to
on
fullback and
Craig
play.
Davis?
Craig Davis.
So he was a former Carlton player too.
Another former Carlton player, and he was playing some good footy at Collingwood at the time. And,
Yes, he was.
And he kicked a couple of goals early too, so I was under the pump a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we were struggling halfway
You
through
were
the second
there.
quarter.
You
we
were
were,
there.
and then I got moved to the onto the halfback line, I think, and then and I was running through the middle trying to get, and that was a muddy day. It rained
It
like
was a
hell the
muddy
night
day,
before.
yeah.
And we're trying to carve my feet through the bloody cricket pitches at the MCG.
Yeah,
when the
that's
mud
right.
It was
everywhere.
very muddy and boggy there.
And it was a real tough contest. And Collingwood just worked hard, and we had to work really hard to get in front, which we did right on half time. We got there, and then we chipped away in the third quarter and got a handy lead and hung on, and
So we speak
Collingwood
to
were coming home.
Harmsy, right?
Yep.
So we've spoken to him a few times. He's a triple. What am I going to say?
Legend of the jumper punch.
Legend of the jumper punch. He's been on 3 times.
Okay.
But he said that day he never thought they were going to lose. You were going to lose that game. He just had that belief, and he goes, "I know we only won by 5, but he goes, I never thought we were going to lose that game." And that's because of what Jezza instilled into you.
And we'd proven it through the year. You know, when the third quarter came, we were really firing, and we knew we were fit. So and in the last quarter, we could really work our way and play high quality footy right to the end, basically. And I think that confidence was through the whole team.
That's
and
what
we weren't going to give up that. I mean, Collingwood were coming too.
they came and
they
certainly
but
were.
we found a way to hang in there.
You did.
And that was all. And credit to Jezza and the way he went about that whole 2 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's gone. He's abdicated with
the injury right there towards the end.
What's that?
Of course, of that game.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
I remember it.
Carry him off. I remember him those days. They would just like carry you off.
Wasn't it? Was it an ankle injury?
It was an ankle. Yeah.
Yeah, he went down, and it wasn't far from me at the time, and he was in. You know what it's like when you do an ankle? It's unbelievable.
No, you couldn't walk on it.
No stretcher. Those
stretcher, just hobble off.
They would have holded him. He was like half falling.
It's almost amazing they didn't put a bag around him and just tie him up and put him over his shoulder.
The tension was great enough without your coach and your captain going down in the pocket.
True.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
And of course, then Wes Loss had to really coach, I think, for the rest of the game. And Percy Jones was on the bench, and he was on the bench with Peter Brown, I think, at the time. And Percy said to Brownie, "I think you better go on."
Well, that's what he did. Brownie did. He's told us he had to go to full back.
That's right. And that's what Perce always says, I made a great decision that day. I told Brownie, he said, and that's when I knew I could coach.
He qualified for the following year.
That's right.
I love that. I love that. Hey, can I just say something else? So I find this amazing. So you're out there, right? There's 100,000 people. Like, man, the noise must be electric, right? So when you're deep into the game, like I felt this when I play like my indoor cricket, right? And there's a crowd. You can't hear the crowd. Does the crowd disappear?
Well, that's a great sign if you don't even know that the crowd's there, because that means that you're focused. Yeah, you're focused. You're in the zone, and when you get really in the zone, you probably don't even remember much about the game.
Yeah.
And some of my best games have been times when you think back and shit, what happened there? And you realise that you were just in that zone and playing, your best footy, and it doesn't happen to be really in the zone all the time, but.
So the crowd kind of comes in and out.
Yeah, that's right.
You hear it and then it disappears. Well, that's amazing.
But it's so special to have that sort of crowd, the size of that sort of crowd at the G, and we've seen it in the last few days, over the final series this year, and heard it too on telly. And if you've been there, it's been very special.
Now, rumour has it that one of the reasons that you're really upset at missing the 1982 grand final was because you wanted to be there when Helen D'Amico ran out onto the ground, and you were very jealous of Bruce Dool.
Funnily enough, you wouldn't believe it, but I sat next to Dooley's wife that day,
really,
watching the game. And, Lorraine, my wife, there, and Sandy Dool was there, it was such an embarrassing moment for her that I had to try and comfort her. The thought never occurred to me that I'd love to be out there.
The one thing the Dominator said made me laugh. He goes, when that happened, he goes, I'd never seen Bruce Dool in the centre square. That was the only time I've ever seen him in the centre square.
I've never seen him not enjoy things as much.
The other thing he said, it's the first time I've ever seen Bruce Dool hesitate about what to do on the field. But
Helen D'Amico, what a...
Wayne Johnson also said that the curtains didn't quite match the carpet. But anyway,
we'll move on from that.
He got a pretty close up view. But
81, 82.
Back to yourself. Yeah, I mean, 79 great premiership. Before we get to 81, 82, what about that tumultuous time straight after the joy of winning the 79 premiership, and all of a sudden there's all the politics going on, and new president, and Jeslico says, I'm out of here.
That's right.
Did you see that coming?
No. Well, George, I knew there was a few things going on at the board, but we were always told just to
keep your noses out of it.
Nothing to do with players, and it was a good policy that.
Why didn't Jezza do that?
Well,
because he got himself involved, didn't he?
Well, he did, because he had a great love for George Harris. George Harris was an incredible leader at Carlton as a president over a long period of time. Really brought the club back into success from the mid-60s.
Well, he was the one
when
that got
Barassi. And that group of guys on the board at that time, they were sort of getting towards the end of their era, and so was George. And George, there was some issues around George investing some of the funds of the club, which made things a bit difficult. And I remember going to one of the One of
Well,
the.
did he do these things without the approval of the rest of his committee?
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, I've never really gone deep into.
So in other words, it's a team effort here, everyone. And we do things my way.
I do recall one of the AGMs at Carlton that I attended. This was the one before that night. It was the start of '79 or something.
Yeah.
And there was a journalist there at the time who'd probably been to the pub, had a couple of beers before he got there. And as George came up to start his speech at the AGM, George Harris, this particular journalist from the back was yelling out, "George Harris, what have you done with the money?"
Oh, really? Wow.
And there was about 500 people there, and they're all going, what's going on? "George Harris, what have you done with the money?"
Oh, my goodness.
And that was
that opened a can of worms?
Oh, well, and then that's when I started to think, well, something strange is going on here. And so it took another 12 months and a premiership. We got the premiership. And then George decided to abdicate. That sort of
Luke
stuff.
Sayers, what have we done with the money?
It doesn't have to be true. You just say that's it.
So that's right.
$35 million in government grants.
What's happened? Yeah. I'll tell you what, the facilities are good.
Yeah, they are. They're really nice. Good job. Yeah.
But anyway, so George abdicated basically because the pressure was on him, and he said, "I'm resigning. I need to get out of here." And of course, Jezzo had a great love for that guy, and he decided that he'd go with him.
Yeah. So he took the money and ran.
Well,
he
invested, and I think that the investments didn't go all that well. I think something like that. But
so then they both left.
And then Ian Rice came in.
Ian Rice came in and did a wonderful job in sort of controlling things. And Peirce took over. And Peirce, it was a magnificent effort by Peirce to take on the job because it was a desperate situation for Carlton then. And of course we had a good year. We won a lot of games, but in the finals we just didn't measure up really. Yeah. And
was that through lack of strategy, do you think, rather than lack of ability?
I don't know.
Because clearly the team had the ability. 2 more premierships the next 2 years.
But look, you could.
Who knows?
Who knows? You know, it's.
I feel for Peirce in that situation because he actually was thrust into that role that he probably didn't want to do.
And then he didn't want to leave.
And then he didn't want to give it up, of course.
Then the Hawthorn bloke came along and said,
that Hawthorn bloke.
The Hawthorn bloke, that's right.
But I mean, you know, I think he's sometimes unfairly maligned for...
well, listen, people...
I love Peirce, because Peirce lives with me down at... I'm at Ocean Grove and he's at Barwon Heads. Yeah. We often get together these days. Good. And Peirce is still as mischievous as ever. And his love for the Carlton Football Club is unparalleled. He dresses up when we
he
win.
Makes us laugh. He's one of those characters. If you see highlights of him, you know, the way he carried on when someone else kicked the goal. I've never seen another player do that.
No, he loved it.
Oh, he's passionate. It's still there.
But just remember, 4-time premiership player,
brilliant.
At the end of the day.
And his contribution to Carlton's been immense, you know.
Absolutely,
But love Peirce, and but you know, as a coach, he had his moments, I reckon, and he understands that. But you know, Richmond won the premiership that year, I think, and they beat Collingwood by 100 points or something, didn't they? So they were probably the best side anyway, and we're going to win it that year.
Yeah, Richmond were, they
were a good side.
Yeah. But we showed them a clean pair of heels the first match 82. After they won the premiership in '81. Mind you, we had a couple of new recruits at that stage all the way over from the west.
Kenny Hunter, I saw him last night.
Made a bit of a difference.
Ken Hunter and the Buzz came along, and they were just unbelievably good right from the word go. The Buzz.
Kenny Hunter did what you did. He won the best and fairest
in his first year.
No, he was a brilliant player and still a great fella too. He was there last night enjoying himself. So.
Geoff, you played in an era where it was all about the contest, and it was all about the rivalries, and it was all about key position players being pitted up against other key position players. And you did an unbelievable job at fullback on some of the best full forwards of all time. I mean, we saw some of the best full forwards really back in the 70s and early 80s. I mean, Hudson was one that you would have played on.
Peter Hudson, there was Peter McKenna.
Peter McKenna.
You know,
yeah. Who were some of the opponents that you were up against, and who would you regard as the hardest?
Doug Wade was unbelievably good.
Another one, yeah.
And I found him as difficult as any because he was like the Tony Lockett of the 60s and early 70s, a big strong bloke. Had a bit of mongrel in him, and you know, put you under the pump in more ways than just physically.
Would they say anything to you?
Oh yeah, there was always
a bit of lip,
a little bit of bantering.
Would they tell you? Because I've heard like Lockett and that would just come up and say, if you get in my way, I'm going to kill you today. Like, is there any sort of language?
Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of that occasionally.
I like it.
I hope you kissed your kids last night and told them that you love them because you're not going to be alive by the time I finish.
I like it.
Yeah. So, but those three guys that, well, McKenna, Hudson, and Wade were. Wade was probably the more vocal of the three, but the other two were very fair players, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My word.
But there were plenty of others around that were pretty reasonable players that weren't so fair, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Who would you regard as the hardest full forward you ever had to play?
Oh, well, I've often said to Doug Wade, Doug Wade, he kicked 8 on me at Princess Park one day, and that hurt. I've been
So
every time I had
every
time I had a goal kicked on me in my career, it was like having a knife in my back.
Yeah, that's good.
And that was 8 knives in my back that day. And it was in my first season.
And you didn't get moved at all like that?
No, I had to play him all day, and that's the way it went. They were expecting you to rally and measure up and improve and try and beat him, and so that you can make a contribution
Did
to
you
winning
beat
the
him
game.
the next time?
I think so.
I think you evened it up.
He went off to North. He went off to North Melbourne, I think, the next. I played on him at 2 or 3 years.
He went from Geelong to North, and he played in the premiership.
And he was
North.
getting on a bit then, but I played him when he was.
He played in '75 with North.
Yeah.
He won a flag with North Melbourne.
Yeah, he did too.
But
he's a good player, but Hudson and McKenna were unbelievably good, and then there's a lot of players that came. It was good. Right through
good days.
You had a good defence there. You had you naturally, which they're saying arguably the
Rod
best.
Curly Austin was a great back
fantastic.
pocket.
Yeah.
Bruce
Dawes.
How lucky
I heard
was
he
I?
could play.
How lucky was I? I reckon I played 250 odd games behind Bruce.
Yeah.
So he was like
He was like having a shield in front of him.
It was like having the big halfback. Half-back, a big barrier.
Yeah,
because his reflexes were so good, and his
reading of the play.
Like I know, we always talk about Bruce still, but because you can't even get an interview with him. But was he really?
No, he was good. He was unbelievably good, and his passion and his competitive spirit.
Out there? Like, did you guys talk to each other and go and pick him up or whatever?
A little bit here and there,
not much.
Bruce was a little bit more vocal than what he is off the field, but he's one of the great recluses of all time. And still is, but he was there last night too.
That's great.
I saw some photos. That's good.
So you all got along well with each other, you guys, in the back line especially?
Oh yeah, no. I think to have you really need a good stable back line that's been playing together for a long time. Like the Geelong team of this year, they got that great bit of stability and continuity, and they're all fit and they're all knowing what they're doing and all that.
And they've been playing together.
You exactly know where you're going to run to.
And they've been playing together for a long time.
Exactly. So that does help, and if you've got a great back line, it's a good start to winning a premiership, I reckon.
Well, you might have found them difficult opponents, but I think you'll find when a lot of those guys talk about the hardest fullbacks they've ever had to play, the name Geoff Southby comes up more often than not.
Possibly,
I'm telling you, absolutely.
No, I've got a lot of respect for some of those. But look, it was a big challenge to play on some of those guys.
Yeah.
And, as a fullback,
Which you loved the challenge?
Loved it. Loved it. It put a lot of pressure on you at times, but that's life when you're playing at the highest level. You've got to.
Can we quickly go into like the 81, 82? So you missed out on those 2 grand, and you play like most of the year, I suppose.
Yeah. 81.
So what happened?
What happened in '81? I had a very bad back injury and got myself missed probably 8 or 10 games and got myself back into the team and got myself going reasonably well and reasonably fit by the end of the year. Played in 2 of finals. And we made the grand final, and on the last training session in 1981, I ripped my groin, a bit like the adductor thing.
Chris Jones too.
Yeah, and Sam Reed's got it.
Sam Reed's got it now in Sydney,
And of course,
that must be awfully
and then I thought to
debilitating
myself,
to play with.
I knew it was gone, and I thought to myself, you know, you've got to be, how selfish am I, you know, and we're playing in a team thing, and then I thought, oh shit, I've got to let them know that I've hurt myself. And Parko said, okay, we'll do a fitness test on the Saturday morning, which we did down outside the ground at Princess Park, and I failed miserably basically. But Parko said, make sure that, because I was named in the team too in 81, Parko said, make sure you bring your gear along with you, because I want you to pretend that you're going to be playing.
Right.
In fact, I want you to get changed and actually walk out the race with your gear on.
Did he put number 25 or number 26 on your back, like he did in '82 with Frank Marcazzani and David Clark?
Oh no, none of that going on. But it was one of the hardest things I had to do. Get changed, walk out in the thing, pretend that I was playing, and then I had to come back.
Did you walk out into the ground?
No, I walked out into the race about 10 minutes before we were starting to show the Collingwood people that I would have been playing, sort of thing.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I had to go back and get changed and go up and sit with my wife and.
So it's all smoke and mirrors and
all that
ducks
sort
and
of
drapes.
all part of
Nothing's
the strategy.
changing, Carlton, by the way, since then.
So that was tough, and so I missed that one. And of course, Scott Howell got the gig for me and played a really good game. He
did play a good game.
So that was great, and we had a.
He played on Peter Moore that day, didn't he?
Played a bit on Peter Moore, and I think I think he was because he did
he played
really
on
good
Peter
job.
Moore.
Yeah.
How were your feelings watching the grand final?
Oh, tough. I wanted to be out there, but
that's
I
what you play all year.
I'm so delighted.
That's what you train and play all year.
But you never feel as though you're really part of it. You know, I even going to the 81, 82 get-togethers, 40 years down the track, you're still not exactly part of it, you know.
Well, of course, what we should also mention is it's the 50th anniversary of 1972, which is one of the most famous grand final victories.
That's right, and we had a wonderful celebration with the Spirit of Carlton thing.
We did.
And it was a very special reunion, I think, that day. And 72 was to hold the record score, which probably won't be beaten for a long time. I doubt we'll ever be beaten, although the attacking game has come back in a little bit. But
goals, 177 to 22, 18, 150. I don't think the losing score will ever be defeated either.
I'm going to tell you, there will never be 50 goals scored ever again, man. I can't see the way the game is.
No, they'd have to have 1 hour per quarter.
I don't think it'll happen. So 82 now. So 82, near the end, what happened?
82, I got myself fit and played for most of the season, and I think I was even vice captain that year too, under Mike Fitzpatrick. But we got to the finals. We were, good. We were good contenders to make
Richmond
the big run.
seemed to have your measure, but again, you come up with a strategy on grand final day that worked.
Well, but we were playing out in Waverley in one of the qualifying finals or a preliminary final, semi-final, what it was.
Second semi,
and I twanged a hammy.
Again, very unfortunate time.
Pulled a hammy, and you know what hammies are like. It was only 2 weeks to the grand final. I knew straight away, and you know what it's like when you do a hammy. You come off and you.
I don't.
Never done that hammy, have you, Rocco? It's about time you're dead.
The only hammy Rocco knows about is the one that you eat on Christmas Day.
The prosciutto, that's all right.
What do they call the batocchi?
The the hammy.
The batocchi hammy.
Oh, the hamstrings, they're tough. You can't get over them, and they play on your mind as well. And
of course.
And
and if you go out there being selfish, I'll get through it, and then gone after 5 minutes.
That's right.
I
tested myself on the Tuesday night, or the Wednesday night, I think, before the grand final, and just not right, and I would have let the whole place down. So they ruled me out and missed out. So there you go, missed 71, 81, and 82 back to back.
You know what it was, don't you? It's because you turned 30 in 1980.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're a 30-something player, and all of a sudden your body starts to go
Father
on
time
at all the wrong times.
Father time was catching up, and you can
that's
tell with the.
But you kept playing for another couple of years.
I
at
did.
Carlton, on the senior list.
I had the back injury still nagging me, and I played with a back brace too in the last couple of years.
I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you did a lot of great work with the reserves, didn't you?
I played the last half of '84 with the reserve team. I wasn't quite good enough. At that stage, I had some mental health issues too, which was causing me a lot of grief at the same time, and it was a tough gig.
It would have been tough.
And I had to finish my career playing in the twos. I played in a losing grand final in 1984 in the twos.
That's right. Who did we play that year? Was it Footscray?
We played Melbourne.
Oh, Melbourne.
Melbourne we played, and they were too good for us on that day. So it wasn't the greatest end of a long career of AFL.
I might have been getting mixed up with 1986. I think you might have played
Footscray. But so '84, and then I decided I'd retire, and it was and then you had to transition from footy into other things. I'd left teaching and I was starting a new career. So very tough time for me with mental health issues happening at the time. But managed to get through it all over a period of time. Wonderful family and wife. And
100%, that's what you do. So we spoke to Kenny Hunter about the
Kenny
fifth quarter now and all that, and he went through the same thing. So actually,
David Glasgow went through some time.
Oh yeah, Glasgow was in good form last night. He's looking very well. Yeah,
he's going to get married at the end of this year.
Again.
Good on him.
Had his fiancée with him last night.
Moving out of footy and then into the real world, right? Very difficult, huh?
The transition is unbelievable.
What's it like, that bubble that you're in when you're
playing
AFL football?
It is, and there's a financial transition too, because you even in those days we were paid. I was working 2 jobs basically at the time.
Money was good.
And then all of a sudden you lose your football money.
Half your way,
and I was at the stage where I'd probably given I didn't really want to go and play elsewhere and get a small amount of money. I was thinking about coaching.
I was just going to ask you about that.
I did. I ended up coaching the under-19s at Carlton.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
for 2 years, which was a great experience. But I then realised that I
was
probably
with Ross Henshaw.
That was after before Ross Henshaw. I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It was after Brian Quirk and and those guys. So Swan Mackay and myself coached Carlton under-19s in 1985. Right. So that was a helped the transition at the time. But then I was changing. I'd left teaching and I then became a consultant in a consultancy, transport and logistics services consultancy, and then they decided to start up a recruitment arm to that business, a personnel arm, and I then became the leader of that group. And so that started a career in recruitment for me, and 40 years down the track, I'm still doing, running my own business in recruitment, which has been great. So it's been my real career outside of footy, obviously.
And I remember meeting with you together with former board member Greg Lee.
Yep.
Because he's in recruitment, and I think you were working with him at the time.
Greg. I became redundant in a business, a company called Sinclair Knight Merch, where I was running the recruitment arm of that business. It was only a very small little business unit of a huge conglomerate, and they decided that it wasn't going to be part of their knitting going forward. So then Greg Lee and I had a great relationship. Greg, and I'd met him a number of times, and he said, "Come and start up a business unit at United Recruitment," which was Greg Lee's business. So. He was that was great for him to do that, and I worked with him for about we're talking probably 10 or 12 years in that business. And Greg at the same time, his passion for Carlton, it got me really. His passion for Carlton was so great that it really stirred me up again, and then I became part of the Spirit of Carlton group at the time, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
I remember when he
got on the board too.
I remember when he was going for the board. He came to me. I was president of the Carltonians at the time, and I provided him with a recommendation. And one of the other people that recommended him was a young lady called Sherelle McMahon. And I thought, now that's got to be via Geoff Southby, because Geoff's daughter. Rocco, you might not need to know this, who's a champion netballer back when she was playing, Eloise, his daughter Eloise.
I didn't know that.
She played in the Australian team as well, together with Sherelle McMahon. And Sherelle loved Carlton.
Passion of Carlton.
I had her as a special guest one day too.
She's a great girl.
And So Greg got to meet her as well through all of that connection.
Yeah, that's right.
And she also endorsed him.
Yeah, I remember the time, and we did. I did have a hand
it's
in that.
It's who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, it's good. Good stuff. I like it.
Well, Greg got onto the board, which was great.
He worked hard on the board for quite some time.
And your family is very talented in.
Well, Eloise we had a great journey with Eloise. Lorraine loved her netball, and then I got involved with, because at the time netball was going through a bit of a change. And when Ella became, a netball at the highest level, an elite netballer in Victoria, and then she joined the Melbourne Phoenix, which started up in 1997. The Melbourne Phoenix, and the first real national league, professional league of netball. That's
25 years ago now.
That's right. And Ella, I saw Ella this morning. She lives nearby too here. So,
yes, I know.
And got on the board, helped. Became chairman of the Melbourne Phoenix, and Eloise had a wonderful career. She made the Australian team, played 26 times for Australia, I think, and won a Commonwealth gold medal over in Manchester, and we were over there at the time seeing her do that. So it was a special time, and Ella.
How good is that?
For Lorraine and myself to go through that journey, and of course with Melbourne Phoenix, they were a wonderful team.
They were.
Yeah, and
some talented players. Well,
you've got, Sherelle McMahon was just an unbelievable.
Was Joyce Brown
coached for a couple of years?
That's Fraser Brown's mother.
Yeah. Oh yes, because I did
Joyce
know
was.
that too.
At one stage, even she was being touted as a possible senior coach.
She would have done all right too.
Of an AFL team. In fact, Fitzroy were looking maybe at recruiting her.
No, Joyce was an icon of coaching in netball.
Yep.
And we were lucky enough to get her, and she appointed her in, I think it was around about year 2000, 2001, and she coached 2 years, coaches to a premiership.
I don't know about you, but I have no doubt that if Joyce Brown was coaching an AFL team, men's team, she would have killed it.
Yeah, she had charisma.
Strong.
We would have made
tough,
finals.
I don't take it. She was one of those I don't take shit from no one type of people, and I really mean that.
And I coached Rosa in the under-19s. I coached her son in the under-19s, but Joyce was She was.
That's right.
She was a very impressive person, and Eloise just loved her because she played under Joyce when Joyce was coaching the Australian team. And,
she really got the best out of her.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, back in those days, it was great.
One more thing. Yeah. What do you think about the Blues right now? How are we going? Are we going to win the premiership in the next 3 years?
Look, this year has proven that that I think we're giving ourselves a real chance to continue to improve, I reckon, and with the appointment of Vossi and the new board and all that sort of stuff, there's been some really great changes that were required, and we've got to work hard to get some better players too, and we've got to see some improvement through the team as well. But there was some exciting football played that midfield group in the first half of the season was very special, I thought.
When they were all together and working, they were definitely probably the best midfield going around.
And there's no reason why that can't continue and even improve. And then we've got two great forwards who can kick goals. We need a little bit around the edges, I think.
They've kicked some improvement
more
than 100 goals between them. It's not
bad.
We
need one more. We need other teams have got a Stengel or a Ginnivan, they're kicking
a goal-kicking half-forward flanker is what we need.
Yeah. You do, and they're hard to come by.
Exactly.
And there was some signs shown by some of them this year.
Of course.
And so we're hoping for further development there. And then our defence, I think, has been more the weakness in the last couple of years. But Wiedering is just a tower of strength there. He's a great Carlton man and a good leader. Saad had a brilliant season, and he's fundamental to our success, I reckon, with his run and his carry and all that sort of stuff.
So what have we got to get better at to make the finals? Because
we've
had all of these career best years, and yet we still didn't play finals.
But that's more individual. We've got to get better as a team, I think, and our backline needs to get a bit more continuity. We've had injuries and all that in the backline, so we need to get 5 or 6 players that are going to play most of the year.
Playing for the whole season, of course you do,
And then this group of players have decided, I think, now that they really want something special to happen with the team thing that wasn't happening until they've got together themselves.
Yeah.
I think even without Vossi coming in and all that sort of thing, I think they've made a decision. With the likes of Wheaters and Cripper and Sam Wells. Sam Wells is going to be a great leader for us too going forward.
Of course, yeah.
And those three with
Curnow,
all those guys.
Yeah. Doherty had a great.
Oh, Doherty was unbelievable.
Inspirational, wasn't it?
Inspirational year for a bloke that's been where he's been.
Yeah.
With knee injuries, 2 ACLs and now and a couple of bouts of cancer.
Yeah.
And what he did this year was
inspirational.
just, So and he is a leader himself, and his football is great. So look, I'm feeling optimistic.
Yeah, I think so.
And
can't wait.
and it's been a long time since '95.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
word, it has.
Before we do go, I just want to make mention also the tremendous amount of work that you've done on the committee of the Spirit of Carlton, which is the past players group. I mean, you've put in an enormous amount of work together with people like David Rees-Jones,
David Mackay,
and a few others.
Yeah, you got Alex Marcoux been on the past players group.
Yeah, Marcel Marceau, they call him. But that's been a real success, hasn't it, to have that?
Yeah. Well, what happened was back in about the 2005, 2006,
when we were getting more of those wooden spoons.
Tough time when the
back-to-back wooden spoons.
The club was a basket case on and off the field at the time, and then we decided that. At the time, we moved out of Princes Park, so the past players group at Carlton had lost their room, their identity in some way, so we decided to re-engineer it in some ways. And with Dennis Minari, who was the president of the past players, we got with him and we said, how can we improve things? Yeah. We also said, the club's really in strife at the moment. We need to do something a bit more independent and start running some functions and help raise some funds even for the club at the time, which we did.
And it was tremendous. I went to some golf days, I remember.
Yeah, we had golf days and we had all those sorts of stuff, and we ran some functions interstate as well as some great lunches here.
Yep.
And the traditional lunch each year now has become a trademark of the Spirit of Carlton.
It has.
And we've been able to probably, I think, we might have raised about $750,000, I think, over that last 15 years or so to help the club, and we've directed the money so that it actually tries to
help the players.
Yeah, cultivate improvement of players with new technology equipment and all those sorts of things. So and all that stuff. So and training, new methods of training and all that sort of to help the club do that. So. It's been a privilege for me to be involved, and of course it keeps me directly involved with the club.
Yeah. And one of the other accolades that we should mention, apart from your, Carlton legend status and all Australians and stuff like that, is you were included in our 150th year in the ranking of our top 12 best players, and you came in at number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
So basically top 10. So you're one of the 10 best players ever to wear that famous jersey.
I feel very proud of that, and privileged to be part of that, because when you look at that group of players with Big Nick and you've got Jezza
and
Dooley and
Kernahan and Bradley and Silvani.
And
Johnson.
Chris Judd's in that group as well.
Robert Wall. To look at like yourself,
Sauce, Silvani,
with these players, don't you? Because you are a top 10. Like from the outside, we're going, of course you're there, but how do you see it?
Oh, look, it's as I said, it's a privilege to be to be grouped with that. Those Carlton players have given their heart and soul.
You're a very modest and humble man, Mr. Southby.
I think most champions are.
I'll tell you, a lot of people that have had the benefit of watching this man play, especially at his peak, would say to you that Stephen Silvani can consider himself lucky to be made the full back of the century, because this man here was
I reckon
right
we're
up
lucky
there.
we've had probably 3 of the best.
And I reckon if it wasn't for those injuries in 81 and 82, and you had to play in 4 premierships, that might have just.
I'm dreaming now. I'm dreaming.
Bruce
might have just got you over the line, Geoff.
Thanks,
Bruce Hill,
Silvani, Vince, I appreciate that.
And Southby. Come on.
I can tell you that he's a man who's widely acclaimed as one of the best
champion.
fullbacks, if not the best fullback ever. So,
thanks for that. I really
we'll let
appreciate
people continue to debate that one.
I love the debate.
I'll take my head. I'll take off my pumpkin.
The good thing is in the Carlton team of the 20th century, you're both there.
No, that's it.
Sauce is at fullback, you're in the back pocket. So,
100%.
You're both
I
worthy.
love Sauce. I used to kick the footy with him when he was a kid,
and played with his old man.
Played with his old man.
Yeah, what a great family.
Great family, and we've got Jack now, who gives his heart and soul everywhere.
Well,
Go
Geoff,
Blues.
you've been an ornament to the Carlton Football Club and to the game. Thanks so much
Wonderful
for
to
joining
be
us
with
today.
you.
You've now become, you've got your premierships, best and fairest and everything, but now you've become a legend of the jumper page.
A legend of the jumper
You can
page.
put that on your CV.
Beautiful. Where is the jumper? I want to punch it. Thanks, boys.
mate.
Good on you, Geoff. Go Blues.
Go Blues.